All right, good morning, welcome to a beautiful super Saturday, guys. If you're on this and you guys can hear me, see me, open that chat box, let us know where you guys are calling in from on this beautiful Saturday. We have people all across the world, and this evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you guys are tuning in from, is going to be pretty special. Over the next hour and a half, we're going to go through a couple things that is super powerful when it comes to the business. There's been a little change in the schedule. However, it doesn't affect anything within this this call this morning. And myself and Chris Lengle are going to be going through different principles that you can use in any business that you guys are participating in. Okay, so again, I want to welcome you all. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm just getting all my notes set up right here. Give me 2 seconds and we are good to go. Perfect. So, sorry, just making sure that everything is good. Amazing. All right, cool. So the different things that I'm going to cover this evening or this morning, wherever you guys are calling in from. And the main thing is understanding the fundamentals and how important systems are in your organization, in your business. Now, everything that I'm going to go over, you can use, whether it's in digital marketing, affiliate marketing, network marketing, trading, traditional business, whatever it is that you are involved in, you can utilize these principles. And the most important thing is creating systems that are duplicatable, so that not only yourselves, but your whole organizations, your whole teams, your whole employee staffs, if you have traditional businesses, are working from the same system in order for your business to be successful. The most successful businesses are the ones that run the smoothest because there's systems in place, because people require structure. So let's break down why systems are important. Okay, let's look at, say, coming into the trading world. You're brand new into trading. You have no idea where to look. You have no idea where to go. What's the first thing that you require? You require guidance. And what systems do is it allows you to follow guidelines and also create guidance for you in order for you to use and utilize and lean against to be successful. So when it comes to the trading side, how do you get started? What are the first things that you need to do in order for you to set up your foundation to be successful? Where do you go? What do you look for? Where do you start? What type of content are you consuming? What type of practical applications are you applying in order for you to build your building blocks and that foundation to be strong in order for you to advance? And once your foundation is strong, your results will be longer lasting, okay, and more sustainable over a longer period of time. So it's important to understand ways in which you can use that. Now, let's look at the network marketing model. When people get started, okay, the first thing that they require is they're getting started. How do they get started? Where do they go? How to find everything in order for them to navigate through their back office, through their users, the user end, and then on top of that, okay, how do they launch their organizations? See, when it comes to building an organization in this digital space, again, structure is the most important thing. People come in looking for guidance. And if you're a top leader, if you're someone that people look at and come into an organization for, they're looking at you as that centerpiece to help guide them through the systems in order for them to be successful. Remember this, people do not join businesses for the business, they join businesses for the people. So the way in which you've been creative and the way in which you help that person get started in your organization is solely dependent on you and the relationship in which you built with that person. So them coming in, now their dependency is on you and the systems in which you've created for them to be successful. So how do you get them started? What are the first things that you require when it comes to getting them started to be successful and building an organization? Okay, understanding their roadmap. Where are they going? Typically people like to break this down into goal setting. Okay, what are their 30-day goals? What are their 60-day goals? What are their 90-day goals? What are their 6-month goals? What are their year goals? Then what are their 5-year goals? So you have short, medium, and long. And what goals do, they're just measurements. And what they do is it's a metric in which you can measure in order for you to gauge where you are and if you're on track. It's also direction. What ends up happening is people need direction in order for them to be successful. They need to know where they're going. They need to know what they're working towards and what the outcome is going to be within all their hard work. Okay. So those are the first steps, is what are their goals? Where are they going? What are the directions in which they're going? The second thing is who is their support system? Who is their support structure? Who are the leaders in which are able to assist them at any time when they require work? Okay. So if you're looking at the network marketing, their sponsor, the top leaders in their organization in which they can work with, okay, their top leaders in their region in which they have access to, okay, and then how can they work together with implementing a schedule in which structure is created, which allows the system to do the heavy lifting. I want you guys to remember that. You have to create a system that is strong enough and smooth enough in order for the system to do the heavy lifting. Because once you build an organization large enough, once you build an organization that is on autopilot, that is continuously working, it's because the system is doing its job and the system does the heavy lifting. It's impossible for you to be in 50 different places at 50 different times, dealing with 50 different leaders. However, creating a streamlined process and a streamlined system, that helps your organization grow because people always have a reference point in which they can go back and forth from. If this is making sense, just give me a yes in the chat so I know we're good. So when they get started, understanding their direction, number one, their goals, there's then the schedule and where they need to be, what requirements are needed from them in order for them to put in that required work in order for them to achieve their goals in which they've set out. So when you look at different things that we currently have, we have monthly Super Saturdays. We have weekly mindset leadership development, multiple times a week in presenting opportunity. So if you are someone that is looking at building an organization strong and you're newer and you don't know how to deliver the information correctly, how can you leverage? See, understanding leverage in business is super important. How can you understand and take advantage of leverage and leverage the system to do that heavy lifting for you? While you're developing and understanding how to build your organization by plugging into a Super Saturday, into leadership development, into training calls, into trainings, okay, you can apply the systems of the heavy lifting on presenting opportunity to people that are looking for that opportunity. Okay. And people that are more qualified, people that have been there, that have more experience, will be able to share the opportunity and share information and allow them to do the heavy lifting. Once that is complete, the person has received the information and you're able to answer any questions in order for them to get started. So now when you understand the power of leverage, imagine this on a bigger scale. Okay. Now, some people might be looking at this and say, okay, well, the digital side is a little bit more complicated. Let's look at like a brick and mortar business that is more relatable to people. A lot of people have worked in service industries. A lot of people have worked in, let's say, restaurant businesses. They've started off as servers. The first thing that you do when it comes to going into a restaurant and serving, okay, is going through a training schedule, understanding the fundamentals of what that is, that restaurant requires and the type of restaurant that is. And then you go through, after training, shadowing, which is following someone that has done it, that is doing it successfully, that is a model in which you want to emulate. And eventually you are then free to go and apply all of the trainings and shadowing in which you've learned. Businesses tend not to just throw you in the deep end. Companies don't just say, hey, just get started and wing it. This is why they create systems, because any new person that can come in, it doesn't matter who the trainer is, if you put them through the system will do the heavy lifting. Now let's go back to building an organization. Someone comes in, if you allow them to go through the system and you show them the correct way by going through the system, you give that person the best chance to be successful in this organization as you physically can. Now, the powerful thing about leadership, okay, is it's a responsibility. When individuals take on that responsibility to be a leader, it requires not only work, but it requires attention to detail. And it's your responsibility and how you share and help and also onboard individuals into that system for their success. See, what ends up happening is most people, when people come into organizations or they're trying to get people into organizations, they bend over backwards and do every single thing that they physically can to get that person to purchase a package, get that person to purchase a product, get that person to purchase via their affiliate link. And then once they purchase, they don't help them. So they do all the easy work first, but it looks like the hard work. And then once the person has got started, they don't do anything. But the real work starts when the person is enrolled in the program, or the person purchases a product, or a person is getting started in a business, in a company. Recruiting that person into a restaurant to work as a server, the work doesn't start by getting them in and working at your restaurant. The work starts when they get started and you train them in order for you and them to be successful, to create a successful business. Now, the same thing applies when it comes to building this organization. The easy work is getting them started. Most people walk away once the easy work is started. And they say, I've done my job. No, the job really starts once that person starts. So how do you get them from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to the last letter in the right setup in order for them to be successful? Their success is dependent on how you deal with them and how you help them get started, because the start is the most important, because the foundation is where you start. And everyone starts at some point. So how you deliver it, how you share it, and how you build off of that foundation is more important than anything within their journey. Okay? So I want you guys to understand that, especially as leaders. Now, as traders, okay, how you get started is so important, because you can cut corners and you can dive into trading on a live account. You can dive into live sessions without any back knowledge and understand that I'm just going to, or you think that I'm just going to go follow this person and everything is going to be great. And then what ends up happening is you end up losing or in the rears more than you are in a profitable zone, because what you've done is you've built your foundation on quicksand. You're cutting the corners. You haven't gone through the understanding and the fundamental knowledge in order for you to progress. So what typically happens is most people see that, okay, I can generate income via the skill set. So I'm going to skip the important things and follow this individual or this trader, because if I follow what they do, I'll eventually get what they get. That's like a blanket lie per se. And the reason I say that is because what ends up happening is typically marketers will dangle shiny objects in front of you, and what they'll do is they'll tell you what you want to hear in order for you to get started in why you're there. Okay, and then what ends up happening is when the hard work starts, they just say, well, just do this and do that and do that, and they don't show you how to do it. And what ends up happening is that person doesn't create a solid foundation and ends up failing. and it looks bad on the leader. It looks bad on you. So in order for you to be successful at leadership and development and helping people, you have to take that responsibility, and you have to, first of all, deliver the truth and be honest with people and show them the right way, and then also create the right system in order for them to be successful. The most important thing is the education, because I don't know any person that's coming into this industry that has been successful just by copying someone else. There has to be thinking required. There has to be practical application required, and there has to be education that you have consumed and understand what's going on in order for you to execute rational decisions. Okay? And through the experience of you doing it over and over again, the repetition allows you to be successful over a period of time, because what ends up happening, like any industry, you understand the pattern and you recognize what's going to happen before it happens, and you are proactive with the decision, and you're rational, not emotional, because you're educated and you understand what to do because you were trained well and the system did its job. Okay? Any business. This isn't just for trading. This is any business. When it comes to decision making, you can identify the problem before the problem happens and be proactive to avoid the problem, so that then when the problem does arise, you've already created the solutions, or you can navigate around the problem so the problem doesn't happen in the first place. But the only way in which you do that is by understanding the education, and not only understanding the education, but actually doing the repetitions. You know what you have to do by actually finding out yourself. Sometimes it hurts that you have to get stung. Sometimes you have to go and put your hand in the fire to realize, okay, I need to understand what risk management is. These are fundamentals that most people will kind of overlook because they're trying to shortcut their way into building their accounts. The same thing when it comes to building an organization. Before going through the training and understanding the mindset and the development and the skill sets in which they need to develop in order for them to go out there and share and build an organization and be that pillar and be that person, that figurehead that someone is looking for, what ends up happening is most people just go out there and just try and do it their own way, and they go against what's worked, against the system that's been created, and then they end up failing. And what ends up happening is they point fingers. But 9 times out of 10, things like that happen is because of weak leadership. Leaders that don't want to help them and don't want to go through the hard work at the beginning. See, there's multiple different fundamental things that individuals have to go through, okay, in order for you to develop. And one thing I always, one thing that I learned, and one thing that was a hard pill to swallow, was understanding that you're running your own race, and understanding that where you are is, there's a reason for where you are. And until I understood that, okay, a mentor of mine said to me, the reason that you're at where you're at is because you won't allow the system or the process to break you down and build you back up. Okay? You haven't gone all in on yourself and allowed yourself to go through the process in order for you to elevate. What you're doing is cutting corners, and you think you can go further than you really are by cutting corners. And what happens is you're not ready for that next level. So until you go through it and understand the fundamental sides of it, and also can lead yourself, and then now once you can lead yourself, you can lead other people. By default, by leading other people, you will automatically elevate. That was a harsh thing that I had to learn. That was something that was maybe stung a little bit, but it's so important and so critical when it comes to building organizations. See, what ends up happening is people want to say that they come in and they think, I deserve that. Or they go into a job environment and they know what the job pays, but they want more. But they haven't earned it, they haven't been through the process, and they don't know, okay, that they have to show it in order for them to justify giving you that. They want it because they think that they deserve it. Yeah, we all think we deserve it. We all think that we should get it. But what are the things that you're doing in order for you to show it that you deserve it? What are the things that you've developed? What are the skill sets that you've developed in order for you to justify where you're at? And what ends up happening is it's a responsibility. The same thing that I said earlier about leadership. Leadership is a responsibility. So is generating a certain amount of income. So is generating a certain amount of individuals that follow you. It's the weight in which you can carry. How much can you carry on your shoulders? If someone has never generated a 6-figure income in their life or a 7-figure income in their life, nothing is just going to throw on their, no one's just going to throw on their lap to say, go on and yours. Because what ends up happening is people just go and spend it. The reason why when people win the lottery, it's gone within 6 months. All of those millions of dollars. Because their mindset and their understanding and their education is not there, and they don't know how to carry that weight of that income or that responsibility of an organization in order for it to be successful. And what ends up happening is because they haven't been through the right channels of communication, the right channels of development, and their foundation is very, very weak. The next more important thing when it comes to building your systems and building your organization is communication. 99% of everything that you face can be resolved, good or bad, with communication. Communication is the key to success and failure in any business, in anything in life. If it's in your own household, in your own personal relationships. Just think back for a second right now and ask yourself, when was the last time that you had a disagreement with your significant other? When was the last time you had a disagreement within your organization, in your business? When was the last time something negative happened in your household, your relationship, or in your business? And if you break that down for a second and you go back and look and ask yourself why, I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, it's been because of poor communication. It's because you haven't been transparent, you haven't been open, and you haven't said the reality. Kind of sugarcoated it and kind of beat around the bush and haven't been straightforward. Now I want you to do the exact same thing, but for the good side. Why has a business or something in your business worked? Why has something in your relationship been very good? What is it that you did in order for it to be successful? You and your partner, you and your organization were on the same page because you communicated and understood both sides and moved forward with that open communication. You were honest and you were truthful. So when it comes to systems, when it comes to building organizations, when it comes to successful, different successful variables within your life, it's understanding that communication is at the forefront at all times. With clear communication, with clear direction, the goal setting, okay, with practical application of implementing the things that you have learned through the education, and good structure, that is what creates a good system. And a good system creates good duplication, and good duplication creates a successful organization, successful business. Now, the monetary side will take care of itself. But when I say a successful business, there's multiple different avenues. It's about the self-esteem. It's about the mood. It's about the energy. It's about so many different things in your organization that can be controlled by creating those channels of communication, those systems, okay, and understanding that the foundation is the most important thing. 9 times out of 10, what ends up happening is people that cut corners tend to have to backtrack. And what ends up happening is those people that backtrack are 9 times out of 10 the people that aren't successful in that business, in that style of business, in that relationship with an individual. Because what they've done is they've cut corners. And eventually, it's just the way it works, is your lack of education or your lack of structure or your lack of building an organization through the right channels gets exposed because you weren't ready for holding that weight and that responsibility of where you're at right now. So what ends up happening is you peak and then you crash. Let's look at the trading side. You followed a couple traders, you had a couple wins, but your lack of education, what you end up doing is you didn't know how to scale an account, you didn't know how to manage an account, you didn't know how to manage a position. You end up doubling down because you think it's going to be great. So all your profit that you've done and you've done well in one trade, you've just lost your whole account. It's the exact same thing. So to take away everything that we've kind of gone through over the last 30 minutes, okay, is critical in understanding the development of systems and the approach of developing a system that will allow the heavy lifting to be done through that system for your organizations to be successful. Again, it doesn't matter what business you're in. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter what you're doing. The principles are the exact same thing. Communication, okay? The foundation has to be set correctly in order for them to be successful. You have to have the right education. And you have to steer them to the education first. Then they have to go through that training to understand the fundamentals of that niche. And once they go through that training, there has to be some sort of practical application. If it's trading a demo account, if it's building an organization, it's calling people and exposing people to the information. That is repetition, getting used to getting people say no. That is your training. Understanding how and why people are saying no, and how do you navigate through those no's in order to be more fluent, in order to navigate through objection. Through objection, how do you deal with objection? How are you reactive to objection? Are you proactive in the sense of, it's okay, I understand what I did wrong and I'm going to fix it for the next one? Or do you take it to heart and you kind of shrink? Now, on the other side is when it's a yes, how do you react? Do you stay level-headed or do you go over the top? See, both sides are very dangerous. Being too emotional and being too upset on the no's and being too high and too excited on the yes. Because what ends up happening is, like I said, with the trading account, you build, you're so happy, you're so excited, you're on a different level, you go and double down and crash. You go away from the principles. You go away from the fundamentals in which you've learned. When it comes to building an organization, the structure that I said, understanding the schedules, understanding what you can use and what leverage you can use in order for you to let them do the heavy lifting. How many presentations are being presented in a week? Who is doing that presentation and how many people can I get on that presentation? And not only can they hear the information, can you hear the information and learn and take pieces that you like and do it yourself? And then when are you going to do it yourself? When are you going to share the information yourself? When are you going to show people through your eyes and through your experiences how that business has helped you? The best way to learn is by doing. The best way to learn is by teaching. But the only way in which you can teach is if you go through that process and develop the skill sets in order for you to then teach what you've learned. But you cannot teach anything that you haven't been through. See, in the world that we live in today, there's so many people and there's so many leaders and there's so many different individuals out there that will share with you information that they've never been through, that will show you things that they've never experienced because it looks good and it sounds good. But what they're doing is they're not building their organizations, they're not teaching, or they're not sharing and building a good company with their heart. Okay. So what I mean by that is I have a prospect. If I've never been on a live session, if I've never been on a trading session, and I'm looking to help them get started in the trading world, how am I going to guide them to be successful if I haven't been through the information myself? How am I going to be the individual that they look up to? Okay, how am I going to be that individual that they look up to follow if I haven't been through the process myself? So there's multiple different things that you have to look at. And most people, again, the way that the business has changed over the last 3 to 5 years, people are more switched on than ever. They understand what to look for right now more than ever. They know what to look for when it comes to online businesses. They know what to look for when it comes to leadership. So you can only get so far without actually doing the practical application in order for you to build successful businesses and to build sustainability in any industry that you're in. I'm going to give you an example. In traditional business, in the restaurant businesses, I know I talk about restaurants, and the reason is because I'm part of that industry, but all of you have experienced it in some way, shape, or form. Successful owners in restaurants tend to have come through every single job and experience in that restaurant. They've all washed dishes, they've all cleaned plates, okay, they've all mopped floors, and they've all cooked at some point. 9 times out of 10, those are the owners of restaurants, because they've been through every single position. They understand what it takes to be on the other side of the line. Okay? They understand what it's like to be on the other side of the line. So when dealing with people in that position, they know how to navigate and help them be successful because they've been through the experiences themselves. And what they've done is create systems in order for them to build through that chain and that channel to be the owner and now someone that runs that restaurant, that establishment, because they've been through every single way and every single roadblock that you can imagine. That is the most important thing when it comes to leadership, when it comes to systems, when it comes to building success, when it comes to sustainability, is understanding the person that's on the receiving end. But in order for you to understand it, you have to go through that process. So, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you this morning. We have an amazing day and the rest of this Super Saturday with another leader that has been through multiple different ways to be successful in different industries, that has done it on a very, very high scale. And, Chris is someone that has been successful not only in the digital entrepreneurship scene, but also on the medical, in the medical field, that has been through the trainings and been through the systems and been through the fundamental processes and built his foundation strong in order for him to be successful. Built organizations in network marketing, in affiliate marketing, in the digital space, in the tens of thousands, because he's been through that process and understands how to leverage systems in order for them to do the heavy lifting, to duplicate leadership, so that his organization can grow continuously over and over and over again. And this isn't just something that's happened for a year. This has happened for 5, 10, 15 years. And why I share that is because the principles that he's learned in one industry, he's applied to all the industries that he's been in. And through that, the success has been on the same trajectory. And why I share that with you is because it doesn't matter what type of industry you're in. It doesn't matter what type of business that you're in the short term, even in the medium term, even in the long term. If you apply the principles of understanding that systems are the most important thing and communication is so important, it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. You apply these principles, and the success rate of the endeavors that you are participating in, 9 times out of 10 are much, much higher, because they don't change. It's always the exact same thing. But what you do from it And how you apply them is the most important thing. But you have to go out there and go through the process, and you have to allow the process to break you down, and you have to allow that process to build you back up and allow the systems to do the heavy lifting. Most people want to always be involved in every single thing, but it's impossible to be in 50 different places at 50 different times dealing with 50 different people. Allow the systems to work, allow you to collaborate with individuals and systems, and you will see your organizations and your businesses grow at a higher scale. Chris, thank you for being here on an amazing Saturday. I appreciate you and everything that you do for organizations, for people, how to develop, how to build structure. It's so important for people to learn from people like you, because you've done it on multiple different scales in multiple different industries, and the principles that you've done it from, or the principles that you've used, have been the exact same thing in every single industry that you've been in. All they've done is just enhanced, refined, and you've got better at communicating them to teach them over a period of time. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Have an amazing Saturday. Chris, over to you.
Thank you so much, Alex, and what a great job. And, I'm so excited to be here. I love these Super Saturdays. I remember my first one and how fun it was. And I never even heard of the concept, and I'll tell my story. And one of the things Alex talked about is communication. And that's what I'm going to talk about today on the Super Saturday. And when I had Super Saturdays, we didn't have the, YouTube lives, and we didn't have Zooms. So I had to, get up, get dressed and go and go in an event center, right? And that was a lot of fun. But how cool is it that we can do this around the world with technology? And technology has now allowed us to share our story around the world. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about your story. We're going to talk about telling good stories. We're going to talk about some of the principles of that. And, wherever you are, if you're watching the recording, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name's Chris Lengle. And I grew up in a small town outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the eastern side of the United States. Okay. Blue collar. They call it Steel City. We were where, if you ever heard of Andrew Carnegie, that's where they had the steel plants. So I just grew up in this kind of, they call it blue collar, middle class, work hard, go to school, get a job, and I had great parents. I'm very blessed in that regard, but they weren't entrepreneurs. They weren't investors. And so, when I graduated from high school, they told me, go to school and, go to college and get a job. So I was like, okay, well, I want to make money and have free time because I love to play. I don't know if we have anybody out there that has passions and hobbies that they would love to do. Let me know in your comments. I grew up riding dirt bikes, and then I played ice hockey, and then I started snowboarding. I love to snowboard. I have a twin brother, and we're very competitive. So I started to compete. Well, my brother was better than me. And I'll never forget the time that we were almost about to be sponsored by a snowboard shop. And they knew his name. They go, there's this kid named Chuck Lengle, and he's, really good. And they go, and his brother's pretty good too, but what's his name? They're like, I don't know, Shuck. And I was like, oh, heck no. I am not going to be known as Chuck Lengle. And so I didn't care. And this is part of the story, right? I had a goal, a very high goal, is I'm not going to be, and that was just part, silly, right? This is just a little story, but I had that goal. And the struggle was I had to get better, and I didn't care if I broke my neck. I was like, I'm going to get better at snowboarding so I can beat my brother. And then I went out there and we had a competition a couple months later, and I ended up winning that. It was called the Forum Youngbloods, and I ended up getting to go to Tahoe, California and compete in the finals. It was the first time I ever beat my brother. But I think that experience really taught me that, like, you can have a goal, you can succeed, and you can achieve that, and I don't know if that stuck with me, but I believe that for every one of us. Right. And this is a little story. I want to tell you more of my story, and we'll get into a little bit more of the details. But, it's funny how that little thing was very powerful for me, because I had to think back, like, why did I have this where when I went to nursing school, right? I graduated high school and I went to nursing school, and nursing school was difficult. I was the youngest one. I was 18 years old. They called me Doogie Howser. Now, that's an older show where Neil Patrick Harris is a young kid who's a doctor, and I looked like a baby, right? And that I don't know if that helped, but I was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a nurse. Like, it wasn't a question to me. And so I graduated at 20 years old as a nurse. And so I was doing all the things nurses do, and which kind of crazy, right? You see me, right? You're like, oh, this guy looks like he should be snowboarding stuff. No, I scrubs, doing all the gross things you can imagine a nurse does, but all the great things that come with it and all the struggle and everything like that. And I've been able to do that for the last 17 years. And I'm probably the highest paid nurse on the ground. I never went any further in my growth because that really wasn't something I wanted to do. I didn't want to be in a hospital all the time. And it was kind of interesting how life happens. I went out to a snowboard camp in Oregon, and I actually met an individual. And this is another funny story, is we all take care of these kids, right? And I'm the camp nurse, and this guy and these little kids are in the camp houses. And the kid comes out, he goes, "Hey, Peyton has wine in his fridge." And it's like, oh my gosh, you shouldn't have wine with the little kids around, right? It's a wine bottle. So I go in and I get it and I put it in the garbage and I tell him, I'm like, "Peyton, what do you got wine in your fridge for?" He's like, "Bro, what are you throwing away my juice for?" I go, "What are you talking about?" And somebody's like, "Yeah, it's like $40 juice." I'm like, "Who buys $40 juice? What are you talking about?" It was actually a company that he promoted that was a juice bottle. I'm sure a lot of you know it. It was like purple and they're green and it was fancy acai juice. And that was my first introduction to business and into the network marketing industry. And it was so funny because I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he started telling me about how you can make money that shows up. Like, you do the work once and the money can continue to show up residually, right? You could travel the world and you could live your dreams. And we started to talk about, what if we could go snowboard and get paid while we're snowboarding? Like, we always wanted to be professional snowboarders. And I thought, wow, what a cool concept. And that was my first introduction. And I thought, why didn't anybody tell me about this? When I went, they all told me, go get a job. And nobody ever told me, hey, you can be an entrepreneur. You can, with very little money, you could start a business and you could do it around, and then learning, you could do it around the world. And, to fast forward that story a little bit, it's like, now I run a business. I'm an entrepreneur, an investor, and I have business around the world. I've never been to Australia. I've never been to Africa. I've never been to a lot of the countries that I do business in. I have business in, and it was all because of that moment. And it's so cool because look at your life, think about your life. What moments in your life happened that put you on this direction, whether it's good or bad? And that's something my mentor talked about, and we're going to get to that, is, all these little things you can look back at your life and be like, wow, if that didn't happen, my life would have went on a very drastic different direction. And whatever your decisions have led you to this moment here, it's great, right? No matter where you come from, you're in a place right now where you can change that. You can change your story. You can change your direction. And we're going to talk about how you can lead this into business. And obviously, what I want to tell you all is I'm giving you a little bit more of my story because I want to get, just because I like the story. And I don't share it often because a lot of times I'm excited to get into the content, but I want you all to know kind of where I come from, but also to hear kind of how you can tell a story and make it relevant to people. Right. And, so I get started in this business. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm terrified to talk to my friends. None of my younger friends want to drink. I'm in my 20s. They don't need juice. They don't care about their joints or their health. They just want to snowboard and party and have fun. So, but I start to like grow as a person. This is a struggle, right? And what does a good story have? And in life, right? A movie. What's a great story? We say stories, movies, right? We all love movies. I want to talk about movies, but a relatable character, right? So how can you be relatable? It's a relatable person, right? You want to like the person, you don't want to hear somebody's story if you don't like them. It also makes sense, right? If somebody's some billionaire's kid and they're trying to tell you, oh yeah, I became successful. There's a certain person who ends with Dashian that they're like, oh, young, self-made billionaire. And I'm like, that's great. I don't want to take away from her, but she had a few rungs up, right, on the level than most people. So for me, I didn't relate to that. I relate more to somebody like, Joe Martinez, who I'm going to talk about, who came from the bottom, the very bottom, and is now grown to a really great level. And we're going to talk about Joe Martinez, one of my friends who I love his story. And, but, is it relatable? And then is there a worthy goal? Right? A worthy goal, right? Beating my brother, right? That was a worthy goal. Struggle, adversity, right? There has to be some struggle or adversity. It's not fun unless there's something like there. And you guys can think about your life. Like, what is some of the most profound character building moments in your life? I bet there was a struggle. I bet it's when you overcame something. A lot of us will say, if I say to you, would you go back and change that? You'd say no, because that made me a better person. That made me stronger. That made me a better father. That made me a better mother. That made me anything, right? Every struggle can build. It can either tear you down, but can also make you a better person. And that's part of your story. This is part of your journey. And then there's growth, right? We grow, and we're going to talk about growth, and then success, right? The success comes later. But the adversity, and I want to say this so I don't forget it. This is one of my favorite quotes. I don't know where I heard it, so you can just quote Chris Lengle if you want. Maybe I'll just start taking credit. But struggle, adversity, negativity, mean people, that is the seasoning that makes success taste so sweet. Again, the struggle, the adversity, the negativity, pick any one of them, all right? We'll say the struggle is the seasoning that makes success taste so sweet. Write that on your board. When somebody tells you no, when somebody's mean to you, when you're just down, that is what makes it. When you get there, you say, that's right, I did it, I achieved something. And what else? What is life even about if you're not doing something? And that is actually, I've read in books and stuff, most people right now, depression, hopelessness, they have nothing to hope for, right? It's what are you looking for? You can actually change somebody's life completely if you give them something to hope for, something to look forward to. And that was me. I even laugh about this. If I wasn't introduced to this business, network marketing, if I wasn't introduced to my mentor to this business, I would have been a sad person. I mean, nursing is great, but it wasn't fulfilling me. And this is part of my story, right? So I started in this company. It doesn't work. And this guy calls me up again, who introduced me to the juice company. Now, he was scared to call me because I didn't have any success. But isn't that interesting how we can play tricks on ourselves, right? If you're wanting to do stuff, right? Your mind plays tricks on you. He goes, and this is funny, right? This is a great story. He goes, bro, I found a way to snowboard all the time. I said, I'm in. What is it? Right. And this is after I said, what is it? And here's why I like this. This is why I liked him. And this is a key to your story. He wasn't a millionaire. He didn't have huge houses. He didn't have anything. He was a snowboard bum like I wanted to be. But he had vision and he had excitement. And I wanted to follow him. I said, I don't know where you're going, but I want to follow you. So think about that. Put that in your mind. You want to be somebody that people want to follow. That's a key piece to this business, any business, right? Think about the Elon Musks and anybody in business, that's ever done anything. It's people say, you know what, it's kind of crazy, but I want to follow them, into this adventure, right? Whatever that might be, whatever adventure you're doing. So it's like, what is that adventure for you? And so he goes, and I'm working with one of the top guys. And this is actually another thing that changed my life was I met a mentor. And I'd never had a mentor. I didn't even know what a mentor was. And his name was Brian Robert. And, he just was somebody that I really emulated. And this is another key quote that I would love for, write this down. And I hope you all have a journal. I might talk about this. I hope you have a journal. Write this down. This is another quote. I don't remember where I heard it, but it stuck with me. So you can quote me if you want, is never take advice from someone you wouldn't trade places with. Never take advice from someone you wouldn't trade places with. Now, that's not to say that some people, not everybody can have good advice. There's, everybody can have good advice. I'm not saying that that's, and there are people that learn lessons from doing things the wrong way. You can take a lesson from somebody when they do something wrong, right? I'm sure there's things that maybe your parents or your family have done that you're like, you know what? I don't want to do that. I love my dad, but you know what? I don't want to be like that when I get older. Or, maybe somebody in work who has been divorced 5 times and, they might be able to teach you something, what not to do in a relationship, but don't take advice from them on what to do. They're trying to tell you how to live your life. Right. And I love that quote because how many people have bad relationships? They're trying to tell you how to live your life with relationships. They have a bad spiritual sense, but they're telling you how you should, be like this, or financially they're broke and they're poor and they're telling you, oh, you're getting scammed over there. What do they, but then you see people like Brian Robert and Joe Martinez and Corey Cromrie and Alex and Travis Flaherty and people that I'm like, I want to trade. Like, I like their lifestyle. I love their family. I love all these things that I see is like, that's what I want in my life. Those are people I follow. Right. And pick those for you, whoever that might be. And it's great to find a mentor, and especially one that will help you. But you also have to be a good mentee. Okay. Mentors aren't going to want to mentor you if you're a bad mentee. You have to be coachable. You have to be teachable. You have to, have those personality traits where you're there and you want to learn and you're committed. And if if a mentor tells you to do something and you're not doing it, it's not, and it's not that they're going to be mad at you. It's just like, but also it can take time. And I was somebody, and this is another thing in my story I want you all to hear. And Alex, thank you so much for the introduction. I was not an overnight success. I was not a rock star off the gate. It took me, I moved. So let me get back into my story. So meet Brian Robert. The guy who sponsored me is in Utah. I live in Pennsylvania, and he keeps telling me, bro, you should move to Utah. You should move to Utah. Utah, one, they have great snowboard mountains, but two, the top people are here working with them. And I was like, yes, but actually I ended up going to California first. I want to actually tell this part of the story. I did a travel nurse job in California, and I met one of the newest members of the company we were starting together, and his name was Joe Martinez. And we were about we're the same age. He just got out of the Marines. And Joe Martinez is a great guy. I just got to meet him. We got to hang out. And we're just, I laugh, like we're just kids, really, right? I mean, we both were professional. I mean, this guy was Marine, 3 tours in Iraq, Afghanistan, incredible, story of his. And me, I'm already a nurse, right? So we've already have this kind of experience under our belt, and we're starting our entrepreneurship journey. And one of the things I loved about Joe, I saw right away, was he's the hardest working guy I've ever seen, like just unbelievable work ethic. So just want to tell that. So I'm back in Pennsylvania. I got to meet this guy named Joe Martinez 15 years ago, right? So we become friends, but Utah's where it's at. So I end up moving to Utah. But before that, this is what happens. I'm living a good life, okay? I'm working, I'm making money, I've got a girlfriend, I'm snowboarding, I'm going out with my friends, partying 4 nights a week. Life is good, but it's not fulfilling. I wasn't fulfilled. And I kind of knew that. But this part of my story was really impactful. And you look at things that happen in your life that are really bad, and I like to think that something good can spring of it, because one of my best friends got cancer in March of that year, of 2010. So in 2010, he gets cancer, and he just says, and this guy was the toughest guy I knew. And I loved my friend Tim because I'm a little guy, okay? And I like to dance and smile, and I might talk to somebody's girlfriend that I don't know is their girlfriend, and that guy wants to punch me in the face, okay? It's happened a few times. I don't know if it's the smile, right? And Tim was a guy who liked to protect people, and he liked to fight. But Tim wasn't a bully. He liked to beat up bullies. So Tim was kind of my bodyguard at times, and he was the toughest kid I knew. And we grew up. We went to high school together. And he goes, I got cancer, but I'm going to beat it. And we're like, okay, we're young. We're like, yeah, it's Burkitt's lymphoma. It's like 80% cure. And we don't see Tim until September. So you think March, it's now August, right? Think March went pretty fast. It's already August. We'll just kind of do the same time frame. I go see him in September. He's in the hospital. He had stage 4. He's been through chemo. He's been through hell. He's bald. He's depressed. And I'm like, oh my God, Tim, we had no idea. Well, he didn't want to tell anybody. He thought he'd just beat it and then come out. Well, we all do this drive, give stem cells for Tim. I go see him in the hospital again. He's very happy. He's positive. He says, I'm going to beat this. Gets home from the hospital a week later, falls out of bed. He gets up, falls out of bed, hits his neck on a table and breaks his neck because he had cancer. The cancer had come back. He had cancer so bad through his body. He just broke his neck and he was paralyzed and he's in the hospital. And so we go in to the hospital and they just say he's full of cancer now. It was like a week. Boom. And I guess anything Tim did, he did 100%. And so I remember standing in the hospital with my friends. We're in our 20s, and the ICU was really great. Normally you have 2 people. They let us have like 5 to 8 in there. And I didn't know what to do. I just was telling dumb stories of dumb things we did as kids and laughed and laughed and laughed. And walked out of there, and he died about a week later. And I'll never forget that moment because I was standing. It was a beautiful fall day in Pennsylvania. If you ever see pictures of the East Coast in the fall, the leaves, right? It was like out of a movie. It was out of a movie. And and I remember thinking like, holy cow, life is so short. I mean, this was October 28th is when he died, right before Halloween. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. I was like March to October. Think about that. I mean, it unbelievably fast. I said, what am I doing with my life? I am not achieving my goals. I am wasting my talent. I'm doing something. I broke up with my girlfriend, moved to Utah in January. It was a great snow year. and I started showing up to meetings. I started showing up to Super Saturdays. I had no idea what I was doing. I just started showing up because I knew there was something here. There was something more for me, and there was something here that I could be a part of, and I could help people on a big scale. I just knew it. And like I said, it was an overnight success. I'd show up and I'd sit in the back and be like, oh my God, that's so incredible. These people could get up and tell their story in front of the room. And, I'm so grateful for Tim. I mean, obviously I wish he was still here, but man, that impacted me in such a way that it changed my life, and my whole family lives in Utah. I live in a condo in Park City now. I'm by the ski slopes. All these things have happened, but it was because of that impacting me. And a lot of you can probably think back to a moment in your life, right? A struggle, something tough that hardens you, that maybe that could be the piece of the puzzle that can impact you and push you forward and become part of this process. Now, I was in Utah. I didn't have, like I said, it took me a while. I was scared of people. My friends, the way we showed love was by making fun of each other. So my thought was, man, I call my friends, they're going to make fun of me for starting a business. So it took a lot of that confidence building. And I love what Alex said about systems, because you want to follow a system. Well, guess what the beauty of the system is? And this is what I had to learn. So this is a really key piece. No matter what you're doing, you don't want to try and reinvent the system. Tell your story and let the system do the work. Me, I made a mistake. I want to tell you my struggle. I used to think I had to explain everything. I would think I'd have to come in and actually explain what a pip is and how to what is Forex, and I'd have to know every answer to every question. And that is simply not true. You tell your story, and everyone, I want to tell you, I'm doing the longer story, but I want to share with you the short story, right? Each one of you can have a 30 to 1 minute story to then get them excited to look at the information. And that's something that's really key. I thought I had to know everything, but now I could tell my story very quickly and say, man, I've been looking for ways to make extra money outside nursing, outside of what I'm doing. And I met these professional traders. They're incredible. They're teaching me, and I am kicking butt right now. Like, it is awesome. And they're going to go, really? Be like, yeah, like you can follow them. You can tell that story quickly, get them excited, and then you pass them to the information. But it's all about learning how to tell your story. And so my story, we continued. I mean, I'll shorten the rest of this, and then I want to get into some more principles. But, from there, I had struggles. I started to have success. We've been through a few companies. And then most of the companies we were with, the owners let us down. I mean, I would work hard. I love the ability for hard work. And usually it was the owner. Like we were in a company, and the owner didn't want to put money into expanding, and we were just held up. So we went to another company that looked really good, and we had a lot of success. And then the owners they were just not good people. They messed up the money. They lied to us. And it was really heartbreaking. And this is also another great story. I finally had hit it in network marketing. I was making over $5,000, and $5,000 a month was huge to me. And that's a big number. Any money you make in this industry, trust me, if you're making 500, you're making $100, you're making 500, you're making 1,000, anything, it is amazing that residual money coming in. I got up to the status of 5,000 a month for the first time. I was so excited. I was almost to six figures. I was actually growing up to six figures, and the owners just crushed the company. And I'll never forget how frustrated I was. It was probably one of my most frustrating moments. And my mom said to me, she goes, "Are you going to do it again? Are you going to keep going?" And I said, Mom, I could always do nursing. I'll be fine. But what about all these people I promised that we were going to go get our whys and our dreams together? What about them? I got to keep doing this. And I believed in my mentors. I believed in the people I was with. And that's a key, right? Find people you believe in. And I think they're here. I mean, IX Global, I've never seen a group of amazing individuals like this that have come together ever. And that's why I'm here, right? It's the people. And that's why I started with IX Global. And I want to tell you that story because, been through that. And just, this is kind of a funny story. I was at a low point. So I got started in this little hospital in Bountiful, Utah. And I started on a psychiatric unit. I'd never done psych before, but I was like, what's kind of a, something small I could do while I try and build my business back up. And this really, really, really pretty travel nurse came in, and we hit it off, and she ended up being my wife. We ended up getting married. Right. And I wasn't looking for anything at that time. I just got out of a relationship. I just got out of a big business thing. And if it wasn't for that business going under, I would have never started at that hospital. I would have never met my wife who now I love, and she's the best supportive person, you know, in my life and everything. And so it's really funny, right, to look back at your story and say, wow, there's another piece of the puzzle. What if that didn't happen? What if I didn't have that struggle? And plus I learned. That's the thing is, you know, adversity, it's so you can learn. You can either, you know, you don't fail, you learn. Well, people fail and then they get depressed, they get mad, and you're allowed to have those moments, trust me. But it's a learn. What happened? And there's stuff that happened this week in our business, IX Global. It's happened that's an adversity. It's something that's learn. It's understand it. It's get the understanding. I saw some questions in the chat. It's read the statements, study, figure it, you know, talk to your mentors, understand these things, right? Because all things in life, business, life, there's adversity that we overcome and there's success. And I believe we'll overcome all adversity at IX Global. And that's the reason I joined, because I actually just got, me and Brian were, my mentor, were consulting. We were frustrated. This company, it's like these owners, this is my favorite example. It's like having a boat. You ever been around people where they have a boat and there's holes and the boat's sinking? I'm sure you have friends where you can see from the outside, like you're telling the girl, dump the abusive boyfriend. He's a jerk. Just get rid of him. And like, and they're in this boat and the water's just coming in. And then you're like, here, plug this hole financially, right? Oh, I just can't get ahead. And then they're out, you know, partying on the weekend, spending a bunch of money at the club or whatever. And you're like, well, stop doing that. Plug that hole and your boat will stop sinking. And they're like, no. And you're like, plug the hole. Here's a bucket. And they're like, no, I'm going to drill more holes. And that's what these guys are doing. They're like, we're trying to take buckets and bucket out the water of the boat. And they're like, just drilling more holes and the boat's just sinking, right? And I was frustrated. And Brian and Joe Martinez had started his own company. And I told you, I've known Joe for 15 years. We've worked together. He's the hardest working guy I know. He's made tons of money, but always so humble. And Brian goes, let's go see what Joe's doing. And I said, what could Joe possibly be doing? I was like, it's only been like 8 months. I remember Joe showing me for the first time. He's like, dude, check out this app. And I'm going to start this company called IX. I was like, that's really cool, man. That sounds exciting. Saw what Joe did. I was blown away. Joe already has this back office better than companies I've seen that are 3-4 years old. He already had a comp plan that's there's nothing out there that touches his comp plan. It's so innovative. I was just blown away. And then the products, he brought all these great traders, some of the best traders in the world, into a company and a technology company, a self-betterment platform. And I love that because personal development, which I want to touch on too, is he brought all this into a company. And I said, this is amazing. And I said, Joe, what makes this different? Because I've been in a lot of companies. He said, you know, Chris, he goes, I've always wanted to do something to help people. And especially even emerging markets. Because I always think people get left behind, right? We kind of get excited about the money and the little people get left behind. He says, you know, I always wanted something where somebody, no matter where they are, India, Africa, the United States, they can have nothing and become something. And Joe Martinez is the one guy, and he's the owner of IX Global. If any of you don't know, he is the one guy I've seen. And I said this to my wife. I go, you know, I met people who have been successful. I've met people that have already kind of achieved heights, but I met Joe when he was starting out. This is the true, they call it the American dream over here. Started with nothing and now has beautiful house, family, the cars, and a company. But he's never forgot where he came from. And that's why I'm here at IX Global, is because of the people that are here. And that's something you can say. You can say to people, look, these are amazing people. You've got to meet them. Like, let me introduce you to some of these people. Let me share some videos. Let me show you this Super Saturday video that they just did. This, you know, that you can be, look how cool this is. They're teaching us these life skills that you can take anywhere. And that's really where it is like, tell your story, dive into the system and become part of it. And what I love about stories is, number one, this is the two things my mentor told me. And then I want to talk about a couple more things on stories and telling your story. So you guys now know more of my story. And obviously I'm compressing 15 years into, 15 minutes, we'll call it, maybe a little more. But two things you can do right now. I want you to, aside from quotes, is write this down. Write down your why. And you don't have to do it right now, but write down on why in big letters. Why? Why are you doing this? What are you doing to change your life right now? Like, or what are you doing? Your why is, what is your goals? What is your aspiration? What do you want most in life? And it doesn't have to have limits. This is yours. This is for you. Okay. What would you do if you had all the money and time in the world? Me, I want this big house up here in Park City. We'll all go. You're all going to be invited. When the Olympics come out here to Utah, we're going to hang out in this big house. I already have. It's right by the slopes. I want that. I want a beach house and a lake house. I want to travel around between three. I want to have a beautiful family. I want to not have to stress about money. I want maybe a green Lamborghini because it's the most obnoxious car there is. But I also want a PT Cruiser monster truck. But I'll tell you that story later. But what's your why? You know, is it that you can bring your wife or your husband home or your significant other, you know, home from work? Is it that you can give your kids the best life possible? Is it that you want to travel to that dream location? Is it you want to see the world? Whatever it is, write it down. That's going to be part of your story. And then the second thing I want you to write down is personal development. Personal development, things like this, Super Saturdays, reading books. I want to show you. My mentor told me, write down your why. He had his, and oh, I forgot an important part. Write down your why and put it up where you can read it every day. Mine is in my bathroom. It's right next to the mirror. I read it every morning. It's really easy when you're brushing your teeth for 2 minutes. You can read your whys, visualize, but you're reading it, you're putting it in your mind, and that's going to motivate you. But it's also part of your story. When somebody says, why are you doing this? What are you doing? Oh, man, hey, look, what I'm doing now isn't going to get me these goals and dreams. This is what I'm striving for. This is what I want in my life. How else am I going to get it? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to follow these amazing people at IX Global. I'm going to build a business. I'm learning these amazing financial markets where I can make unlimited money from the comfort of my own home on a computer in my in my pajamas. And ladies and gentlemen, we're on a super side. I got business up top. I got pajamas on the bottom. That's what I love about this business is you can do it anywhere from a phone or a computer. And then the second biggest piece is personal development. This book, and I'm not saying it's the greatest book ever written, but this is the first book that really changed my life. It was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where Robert Kiyosaki tells his story about his real dad, who was a professor and believed in going to school and getting a job. And then his other dad, which was his friend's dad, who was a businessman. And the businessman taught him all these principles of how to become wealthy. And that's really what IX Global is all about. It's about personal development. It's about growth. And how can you become wealthy in all aspects of your life? We're not just talking financially, even though 80 to 90% of our problems are financial, but every aspect. And that's what personal development will do. And here's the cool part. Back in my day, right? I laugh. Back in my day, you had to buy the book. You had to go buy this physical book, right? Now, you could be on subscription for a couple bucks a month and listen to them. You could find them on YouTube. You can go to your library for free and read. And one of the best things I ever did, and I'll tell you, this is going to sound crazy, everyone, because there's a lot of good stuff, right? You can see in the background, I have a television now. But when I started, me and my roommate, we had no furniture. Let's tell the story this real quick. We had no furniture. I moved into a house in Utah, no furniture, no bed. Slept on the floor at first. Joe Martinez gave me my bed when I moved to Utah. It was in Brian Robert's garage. He was in Peru meeting his wife. This is how long ago this was. And he said, yeah, just take my bed. So Joe Martinez gave me a bed to sleep on, and he never wanted paid for it. I always love that story. But also, we decided not to have a television. And honestly, this might sound crazy, but if you want to change your life, unplug your TV or throw it away for a year. And when you're thinking about, what should I do tonight to entertain myself? And trust me, there's lots of good shows, but don't worry. They'll still be there. They'll still be there when you're done. I read 62 books that year because I was just doing business, and those books changed my life. And you never know right away. You never know if it's going to happen right away. It's consistent effort over time. It's these little ideas that they start to feed in your subconscious. And then you start to problem solve better. And it's just incredible. But you start to read other people's stories and their journey. And guess what? They're a lot like you. They're a lot like it. That's my favorite thing is everybody's had struggles. They've grown up. There's people out there just like you who have done things and become successful. And I love it. Yeah, I just saw a comment. It goes deeper than financial. It's personal, spiritual, and it manifests as financial, right? All these things, your confidence, you grow your confidence. Guess what? Your business will follow all these things. And so, and the thing I want to tell y'all, this is something that I had to learn. I used to think it was going to be when I made a lot of money that people would start to follow me. And that's simply not true. And we kind of hit on that, right? The person who sponsored me, he wasn't rich. It's not about the millions. It's that you're still here doing it 6 months from now. It's that you're still here doing it a year from now. Your friends and family will say, and they might laugh, what you made? I made a lot. But then down the road, they're watching you in the background. Trust me, they're still watching you to say, does she have what it takes? Does he have what it takes? Is he actually committed to this process? Because for them, they're thinking, Chris is probably going to quit. he'll probably, he's a nurse. He'll probably, but the fact I've kept going and I haven't quit. And when they say, how's it going? I'm like, it's awesome. I'm learning all these great things. My business is growing. That is the key to this. Okay. And you tell your story. Your story is that you never quit. And I want to hit on this too. I was at Punta Cana for our Awaken trip, and it was an amazing event. I was so excited. I got to meet the driven guys. I got to meet Alex. Alex is such a great guy. Just hit it off immediately. Alex, I love Alex because immediately you could just feel his energy. It's he says it. It's funny because he didn't have to tell me this, but I could feel it right away. He is just a genuine, straightforward person. What you see is what you get. But there's so much heart and goodness. Like you could just feel the whole presence. It's like, man, this guy is confident in himself. He's confident in what he does, and he's a good guy, and you could just feel it. And I got to feel that, right? And I got to meet those people. But I said I got to sit on stage. I got the honor of being on stage for a Q&A. And Paul Barlow asked, he said, Chris, what's the number one thing if you could tell people, to be successful? And I thought about it on stage, and one of the things I said, which this is true, but it's not the number one, and I wanted to see, because I'm thinking about stories. I said, problem solving, which is absolutely true. When you get to a high level, it's all about problem solving. And Mandy Robert said this, which I love, because she said, this is why, her quote, which you should write this down, is this is why we get paid the big bucks, right? And even adversity this week, if any of you guys are being hit up by people about what's going on, right? And people are stressed and it's stressful, you just say, this is why I get paid the big bucks. And I used to say that when I was getting the little bucks. I didn't even get big bucks, but I used to say it because I was manifesting it. Okay, so I get paid the big bucks. I'm solving problems. This is good. This is business. And that is absolutely a really, really important thing. But actually, there's two that I think are when I thought about it for my success. Showing up, which if you're on this, if you're watching this, you're doing it, right? Bam. You guys are doing a great job. Pat yourself on the back. Come on. I can see all of you. You don't know this. I can see you right through your YouTube. I'm just kidding, but I'm still, I'm thinking you're all patting yourselves on the back. And then the second is persistence. It's not quitting. It's having that relentless, like, I'm going to do this no matter what. And I think that's my success. I used to get mad. I used to watch people succeed faster than me. And I said, I'm going to do this. I don't care if it kills me. I'm going to make this happen because I know I can. I know it. I know it's possible. And if you can have that, you can be successful, and you just show up and you keep showing up. And there's all kinds, obviously personal development, all those things come because you're showing up. You start to hear these stories. You're hearing the story over and over. I could have got on this call and told you Brian Robert's story, probably word for word, because I've heard it so many times. It's excellent, but he tells his story over and over again. And I could probably have gotten on here because I've heard it, but that's because I get on the calls. That repetition of showing up will make you more confident, will make you more successful. And also seeing other people will see you showing up. And sometimes it's that they don't even know. It could be a call, it could be a Zoom, anything, showing up just like here. I'm telling you, even when it's hard, even when you don't want to do it, even this morning I was laughing. I get the thoughts this morning. It's 8:00 in Utah. I'm thinking 8 a.m. Trust me, I get up early now. I used to work night shifts. I've never been a really early person. I could have slept another hour today. Thinking about it, I was kind of like, but then I got excited. I'm like, oh, it's Super Saturday. It's going to be fun. And so one of the things that I just want you to know is, keep telling your story. And what are the keys, right? Is where were you, right? Where were you? Your story, right? Leading up to what you found IX Global, or you found Driven Trading, or you found this, and this is what's happened. This is what's happening, and this is where I'm going. So it's just a journey. And think about it. What if I love movies? Okay, I'm a movie guy. I love movies, but it's like, what if Forrest Gump just gave up in the jungle and didn't go save Bubba? Okay, he doesn't come running back. He doesn't get the Medal of Honor. Lieutenant Dan doesn't see him on TV. We don't have Bubba Gump shrimp. How many have you eaten at Bubba Gump shrimp? It's a real thing. It's a real thing out there, right? It doesn't happen. Okay. What about you? What if your story? What if you quit? And that one person, I'm telling you, that next person, that person that can make you successful, you are one person away. No matter what you do, one person can change your life. And you might be one person away. And if you quit now, that might not happen. I have people that quit my business before my business took off. Okay. It happened. It happened out there. It's really fun. It's really crazy to see, like, just before you have people quit, and then boom, the success comes, and it's sticking through. It's sticking it out. What about Star Wars, right? What if Luke's like, nah, I'm just going to stay on the farm. Empire takes over, right? Darth Vader's still force choking people out there to this day. Luke Skywalker didn't go on his magic journey, right? How can you change the world? You can change your life, but you can affect other people. It can ripple effect, right? One of the things I love about this call is, I talked a lot, maybe, you might not have got all of them, but maybe one thing I said, maybe that one thing can change your life and take you on another level, and then I'm telling you, everybody loves a comeback story. Do you know how many people on this call? I'm sure most of you, right? You're thinking, I'm at the lowest point of my life. It can't get any worse. Well, guess what? People love a comeback story. Okay. Love a comeback story. They love Rocky. Who in here seen Rocky? I love that story, Rocky. And there's actually, I don't have enough time. I love the story. If you ever want to look up Sylvester Stallone story about making Rocky, there's so much adversity there. He was broke. He sold his dog because he couldn't feed it. And he felt bad because he couldn't feed his dog. He was so broke. He took the script. He wrote Rocky. He took it to the studios and they wanted to pay him tons of money. It's the 70s. It was the equivalent of hundreds of thousands of dollars for the script. He said, no, I want to be the actor. And they said, no, kid, you can't even talk. Anybody ever seen Sylvester Stallone talk? Like, you can't even talk, kid. You ain't going to be the star. He said, I'm not selling the script unless I get to be the lead. They said, finally, they paid him minimum salary. And he went out there. Sorry, I got excited. I had to tell the story. He went out there and he got paid minimum. Rocky he won the Academy Award for Rocky. And if you watch it, it's so bad. Like, it's so great. It's so bad. But what is it? It's this great story about a person in a tough spot having this amazing journey and this comeback story. And, the dog, right? This is funny. He went back to the liquor store, waited around till the guy, when he got his check for Rocky, waiting around to buy his dog back for like $500. And the guy didn't want to sell it to him. He ended up finally selling his dog back to him for like $5,000. Okay. And the guy got a scene in Rocky. The guy is the dog. And the dog is the dog in Rocky. It's Bubkiss. So, and Rocky's gone on to make billions of dollars. What would the story be? Would anybody watch Rocky if it was just a guy and he went and beat the crap out of Apollo Creed? That's the end of the movie. They're just like, oh, that sucked. Right? Nobody wants that story. They want to hear the struggle. They want it, right? What if Frodo just, I'll take the ring to Mordor, and Gandalf's like, here's some eagles. They just dropped him off and he dropped the ring into the fire. No, we had to see Samwise Gamgee carry him up the whole mountain and carry the whole story, right? Like, that's what makes a good movie. So what is your story? Think about it really deep down. Think about it. Write your story out. Practice it. That's another thing. Practice saying your story. Practice it where you can tell it in 30 seconds or a minute when you get on a call, right? Practice it where if you got on a call like this and they said, hey, Chris, tell your story and talk about stories, you can do that. And that's the thing too. I want everybody to get out of this as I kind of wrap this up here is, it can be fun, right? It can be fun. It's a journey, even in the back. I mean, even looking into the tough things that are happening this week, there's a lot going on. And it's trust me, it's stressful, but it can be a lot of fun. It can be fun telling your story. Make it fun when you call somebody, you're practicing your story. You can tell your friend that you've want to recruit, right? Maybe somebody you want to bring in the business, say, hey, I don't want you to do anything. I started this business and I'm practicing telling my story. And is it okay if I practice with you? I don't have anybody else to practice with. And it's okay. You can tell me, no, I don't want you to be a part of it. And they're going to go, well, why wouldn't you want me, at the end? But tell your story and then tell them, yeah, this company and it's, these guys, they're changing my life. I'm learning this art and skill of trading in the big markets. And I'm really excited about it. And would you be willing to check out this quick video? There's a good chance your friend's going to go, yeah, hey, this sounds really cool. What is this? And they're going to want to know more. And then here's the key. You don't have to tell them anything else. You share a video, you share something. And then like Alex was saying, you just stick to the system. And then you invite them to talk to somebody else and you edify them. And that's the beauty of it, right? Is you share your story, you get them to watch some information or you connect them to a call and then you get somebody else to explain it to them. It's that simple. And that's what I had to learn. I had to learn it the hard way. I used to want to explain everything until one of my sponsors, I helped him recruit a guy who he said to him, I said, this guy's the number 2 guy. Did he tell you anything? They're like, no. I said, Kevin, what did you tell that guy? He goes, nothing. I just said, bro, my friend Chris is like retiring from nursing and he's making a bunch of money and you got to meet him. Kid sat down. He signed up. I explained everything. He didn't explain anything. And I was like, oh my God, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to explain everything. I don't have to be Corey Cromrie and teach an entire session on trading. I just have to get them excited, and then I can point them to the training, right? And that's the beauty of this business, is the system. And if you can get really good, I'm telling you, if you can get, we'll make it 3 things, right? If you can get really good at showing up, staying persistent, sticking it out, and get good at telling your story, there is no limit to what you can do in your life in this business, and you'll have a ton of success. So with that, I'll bring, I don't know if we're wrapping up, Alex. I don't know what's on the agenda. I just want to say I really appreciate everybody watching this. I hope you got some great value. We're going to be around. I'm telling you, IX Global is going to be massive. We're not going anywhere. We're only 3 years old. The opportunity here is incredible, absolutely incredible with what we're doing. And you just really doesn't get any better than this. I'm telling you, dig in, talk to the people that, that you work with, find a mentor, keep showing up. And I look forward to all your success in that area. So, thank you all so much for the comments. And I know we had a little bit of a change up in the schedule because one of them had to drop off. And so either we might be wrapping up or we might have some more exciting stuff. I just want to wait a sec, see if we got anything else, my man.
I mean, we've hit an hour and a half, and it's been absolutely amazing. I have a whole notebook of notes. So I appreciate you, and thank you for spending time with me today and, sharing and opening up to every single person here. And I hope everyone that's listening can go and apply some of these principles into their lives, and it really will, start to change multiple different things. But again, it's been a beautiful Saturday, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Have an amazing weekend with your families, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys Monday with our schedule that we already have for each and every one of you. So plug in, and we'll see you soon.